all right, Kansas City. Let me get this volume adjusted here. Looks like this microphone's all the way up. Hey, welcome. Good evening, good afternoon. This is the BFTAA and More Show with your host, Louis George Walker, coming to you live from the KUAW radio studios located in the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center. That's right, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. That's the name of this radio station, KUAW. We come to you every week on Monday at 5 o'clock to 5:45 or somewhere close to that to give you information, news, and things that are going on in the community and things that are happening with technology and stuff. So we're here. Hope you'll sit back and that you're ready to enjoy another 45 minutes with me. Now, if you're listening to us, remember KUAW is a nonprofit internet radio station that broadcasts live shows over Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, and we also broadcast audio-only shows on the TuneIn app, Get Me Radio, My Online Radio Box, MyTuner.com, Radio Garden, and you can go to KUAW.org to find out about each and every one of those links that you can click on and you can hear us. You can pick us up in your car. If you have a Bluetooth-enabled car, just hook up one of those radio stations and send it right over from your phone to your car radio, and there we are. KUAW Radio is a project of the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, BFTAA. That's right, Black Family Technology Awareness Association and the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center came together to form this station, KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. So we've been around here now for, I don't know, we've probably got about 10 years that we've been doing this. We had a FM broadcast for a while. We don't broadcast on our own FM, but we are sharing broadcasting right now with 100.5 KOJH, which is Kansas City's original jazz house, and that's located at 18th and Highland, the Mutual Musicians Foundation. But we're broadcasting with them. They broadcast some of our shows over 100.5 FM. You can pick that up if you're in the Kansas City area, especially if you're down around the historic Jazz District at 18th and Vine, where Charlie Bird Parker and Count Basie, Duke Ellington, and all of those people from the time, the high time of jazz, especially of bebop, were here and coming through Kansas City. And Kansas City was a spot from the 20s, 30s, 40s. Yeah, right down there on 18th and Vine. A lot of the old-timers still remember some of the clubs down there, but they're fading out fast. But that's it. I want to say happy Veterans Day to all the veterans that served in this nation's armed forces, be it the Coast Guard, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, now even the Space Force. All of those, we want to say happy Veterans Day to you. And for all those veterans that served in foreign wars and overseas, we want to say a special happy Veterans Day for us. There's not many of the World War II veterans left, but we have a lot still from Korea, from Afghanistan, from Vietnam, that actually served in combat roles and stuff. And happy, we're glad that you're here, glad that you're listening, and thank you for your service. Yes, it's always great if you get a chance to go to Washington, D.C. to see the monuments for the different eras of soldiers that are out there. They have they have a Vietnam veterans monument. They have also the Korean War, and they have World War II veterans monuments. So they have monuments out there, a lot of interesting sites that you can see, and it'd be worth, if you're out that way. If you can't find a way for a vacation this summer, go to D.C. There's a lot of the nation's history right there. The Negro History Museum, or the Black History Museum, that is up there now. I had a chance to go through and tour it, and it's fantastic. You know, the Smithsonian has so many great museums in the D.C. area that you should go, if you get a chance, try and check some of that out. It's more than a day to try and see the stuff that's there and stuff. You might could spend 2 or 3 days before you really get a decent view of all the historical buildings in the D.C. and the D.C. area. So, yeah, check it out. It'll be worth your time, worth a good summer vacation out there. All right. So we're here today, and we're ready with the BFTAA and more. We're about Black family technology. We're about closing that digital divide that exists between the African American community and the community at large. We like to get our young people involved in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. STEM fields, STEM careers, STEM education is very important for our future, not just in this country, but for the world. But we really need to be more in tune right here in this country, because our country is not producing as many engineers as it should. There are other countries like China and Japan that produce more engineers than the United States does. And your engineers, your scientists, technologists, stuff, they're on the lead and cutting edge of technology. So we need to get more people, and it's not for everybody, but for those that are involved or would like to be involved, it's a great field. If you have a child that is good at math, if he likes taking things apart, even if he's not good at math, he likes taking things apart and putting them back together, they can teach you a lot of math, but you have to have that desire or that want to do the things that are mathematical or to do the things to create. And if your child is even an artist, they do consider STEAM, which is adding arts into the STEM field. But that's a creative field, and people with creative minds can be used in those different endeavors at companies and stuff, because thinking outside of the box is important when you think about creating something new, when you think about innovation. That's what STEM, engineering, education, science, technology, all of that helps to open up your mind to different possibilities, to see things in a different way, that you can create something new that hasn't been created. So we want to definitely do that, and that's what we're about. Hey, since the last time I was here, we had an election. That's right, I was here last Monday before the election. Now it's after the election, and we have a return of a president, which hasn't been done, but I think they said one other time in history. So it was historic that somebody that won an election, then lost the election, and won again, has happened for the second time in all of the, 200 years of the United States, 200 plus years of the United States presidencies. So we elected President Trump back. Donald J. Trump is now is the incoming president of the United States. January the 6th, he will be the new president of the United States. So he is in power. He is coming into office. He's having meetings with foreign leaders and with the president and vice president now. So the election has happened. Now we're ready for another president. This is not something that is earth-shaking, but it is something that some people did. Every time there's an election, some people think their guy is going to win or their lady, and then it happens the other way. So there's always some people that are happy about an election and those people that are disappointed about an election. And this election was no different. There's many people that thought Kamala Harris was going to win and deserved to be president of the United States, the first female president, but she didn't. And that's something that we can think about. There's a lot of things that they say went wrong, but the United States so far has tried twice to have a female president, and both times the female president lost the election. So that's one thing that we need, and both times they lost to the same person. So we had two different women running for president, and both of them lost to the same person over a 12-year or 8-year period. So that's kind of interesting for coffee table talk too. But we'll have to look at that. Is the United States ready for a female president? And if they are there women that are of the caliber to be president, that can swing enough votes to become president. Nikki Haley was trying to get the nomination on the Republican side and did not make it through the primary. So on the Republicans, they've yet to put a woman up to even run, but they've had women that have ran in the primaries to be president. The Democrats have had 2 women that were up to the presidential level, even though Kamala Harris didn't go through the primary process. She was running for president of the United States. So we've had 3 serious women contenders, and none of them have got it so far. But that's okay. That's what it's about. That's what we do as the United States. So we're going to be under another Trump presidency. For some of you, you may have a hard time remembering what it was like before, and for some of you, you say, here we go again. But it's going to happen, and we can hang on for the ride. There's a lot of things that they're planning on doing. Now, since this is about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, one of the things that had caught my eye was an article in Education Week that said, can Trump really dismantle the Department of Education? And this was written by Evie Bladd, November the 7th. It says, it's not impossible, but many of its functions would need to move elsewhere. So the Department of Education, if you guys remember, they've talked about getting rid of it, and the Project 2025 that the Heritage Foundation had put together was talking about eliminating the Department of Education. And everybody's like, oh, wow, so. Well, that's the thing. Presidents and parties come in and they have their agendas. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. All presidents promise a lot, like all your student loans will be forgiven. Well, some people's student loans were, some weren't. Now we're saying that we're going to dismantle the Department of Education, and that sounds, like it could be really bad. And it may be, but it may not be as bad as we think, because as I was looking back over this article, one thing it says, we didn't have a Department of Education until 1979. So it was put into effect as a cabinet-level agency by Jimmy Carter in 1979. So it's not like the Department of Education has been around for a whole long time. It wasn't here with the Declaration of Independence or the Civil War of any of that. It came in 1979. So we've only had it for, 40 years, right around, a little more. Okay, my math is not all the way there, right on point. But, we've only had it for less than 50 years, if it was in 79. So we've had it less than 50 years. And if it goes away, will they stop educating kids? No, I don't think so. The amount that is spent on the Department of Education runs into billions of dollars, but it's only 10%, roughly 10% of most schools' budgets that come from the Department of Education. And before there was a Department of Education, there was the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. So we had that department, which had been around, and they broke education off. And one reason they broke education off was that it seemed like we were falling behind, that we weren't putting enough emphasis on education. Now, one of the best chances for getting rid of it came in 1981 when former President Ronald Reagan's Education Secretary, Terrell Bell, drafted a 91-page memo. That's a heck of a memo. That's a book. He drafted a 91-page memo about converting at that time, 81, it was a new agency, hadn't only been around but for 2 years, to a small foundation that would conduct research and provide support, but would avoid direction and control. So that's what Ronald Reagan's educational secretary wanted to do. And it faced resistance from Congress and later from Bell himself. So after Terrell Bell had wrote this 91-page draft before, he was even out of office, he decided that he believed that the federal government had a role in ensuring schools confronted the rising tide of mediocrity. So, we tried to close it down once, but it was brought back. Or not brought back, it was taken off the chopping block basically and stuff. In 81, Reagan signed the Education Consolidation and Improvement Act, which reduced federal regulations for Title I, a grant program that provides extra money for schools that enroll large amounts of students from low-income households. But his plans to end the education department failed. So see that there's always, not always, but there's been from the time that this department was formed, critics that thought it shouldn't be. So it happens, but then people get in and say, okay, this country still needs something. George Bush was in favor of it, and he was the one that kind of came up with that philosophy of no child left behind. So we have to look at the fact of educating our young people, and yeah, there's politics involved with it, and where the money goes and how much money comes in. Some think it should be given as a block grant, which wouldn't be dedicated to any one thing. You just give the states a bunch of money, say use it for education, we'll check on you later. Some like that it's going to low-income households that really need it. So there's a lot of pros and cons to this educational thing that we're in, but stay tuned and keep watching, because this is your tax dollars and these are your children and all of ours future with education. As we talk about STEM, as we talk about getting educated, that's one thing that we want to do. So we've got this department. Some would like to get rid of it, some would not. And it says, as the saying goes, she writes in there, all politics is local. And that's especially true for school districts, the most local form of local government. Schools are in a financially complicated position this year as they slim down their budgets to deal with declining enrollment and the end of federal COVID-19 aid. Superintendents and school boards are likely to fight against the reduction or elimination of federal funding streams that help them stay out of the red. And every member of Congress will likely hear from those influential community leaders as they weigh any proposal to do so. So Margaret Spelling, who has served on the U.S. Secretary of Education under Bush, told Education Week in August that that's something that is going to be some opposition to cutting, because it's not talking about just cutting it in the cities or one place. This would be something that would affect all over. So that's what we have to look at. It's not just that they're going to cut part of it. If they decide to get rid of the Department of Education and some of those funds, some things like Head Start or some things like a program that's in there may be taken over and moved to another department. So it's not all hand-wringing that all of this is going to go away. But it's something that you better keep your eye on. And we all should, not just if you have kids. Some people think that they don't have any kids, they shouldn't worry about education. But our future is tied to educating our young people and having an educated workforce and people that are out there creating, designing, transforming this planet, this world, this country that we're in. If we're talking about going to space and going to Mars and doing all kind of things with robotics and curing diseases and finding solutions to the climate crisis and to poverty and those type of things, it's going to take an educated workforce. It takes an educated workforce in order to develop the means. It takes an educated workforce in order to carry out the directives of things. You can have smart people at the top, but if the person down at the bottom doesn't know how to put the screw in, it's all for naught. So we all have a part to play, and we all should be concerned about our educational system. And that's one thing that don't think just because you don't have any kids it doesn't matter. No, that's the workforce that is going to keep this country going, that's going to be able to create and to build things and to earn funds that are even pay Social Security taxes that you may be living off of, that will change your standard of living. So you want to make sure that we still support and pay attention to things going on in the education, STEM and otherwise, in the arts and everything. So we want to make sure that we continue to get our kids educated. Now, one of the things that I usually do, and I haven't set it up for today, is to bring you what's going on in NASA. NASA is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and I didn't set up the new one. I'm going to see if I can pull it up now without killing what we're doing here right now. So give me just a second as I work on getting something going for us here. We'll pull this up because we need to always see what's going on with our National Aeronautics and Space Administration. So let's see if we can get space to ground. And also going on in the city today, we went out last Friday to a nice play that was being put on by the Black Archive, Mid-America Black Archive. Black Archives of Mid-America, that's what it is. Down at the Gym Theater in the 18th and Vine area. And it was a story, a tribute to Wayne Minor. And you might say, well, who was Wayne Minor? And that's, even my wife went down and she says, well, I knew it was the buildings, the projects down there, but you mean there was a person? And yes, there was a person named Wayne Minor, and he's named after, or that's named after him. And the reason that it was is that he died a hero in World War I. He was an African-American soldier back when they had very few African-American soldiers, and they considered it, and even into World War II, an experiment, which shows you how some people think that it was an experiment to see if African-American soldiers could fight in a war. Now, the reason that I say it's kind of ridiculous is that the African-American soldiers have fought in every war. But people will always have selective memory and think, well, they just turn and run, or they won't fight, or they can't follow directions or orders and things like that. That's been something that we have had to combat from the very beginning of this country and all through. But African Americans fought in the Revolutionary War. We fought in wars before there was an America. We fought in the Civil War, the War of 1812, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea. This country has not had a war, the Indian Wars, that African Americans weren't in. But Wayne Minor, they were part of a troop or part of a battalion division that was all black. And at that time it was still segregated all the way till after World War II. The military had blacks and whites in different units. They didn't serve together. It was after World War II that President Harry Truman desegregated the military. But they did a play about him down at the Gym Theater, and it was nice. It was nice to get out, and one of the people told me, one of the guests, a lady I know, said they're trying to raise funds, or they're going to start trying to raise funds to bring his body back to the United States. He's buried in France right now, and they're wanting to bring the body back to the United States. So I thought that's a pretty awesome task to do, and then give him all the honors and let him be buried maybe at Leavenworth or somewhere in the United States. So you may hear more about that, but Wayne Minor was more than just the name for a government housing location and stuff. Wayne Minor was a person, a living African American right here in Kansas City, who died a hero in World War I. Okay, so now we're ready. We're going to go ahead with Space to Ground from NASA, so you can check out what's going on up in the atmosphere. NASA is the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the United States leading think tank and provider of research and development in space. They pioneered space travel for us, and now a lot of the things that they do after the government gets it going is handed off to where Now you have SpaceX and you have Boeing and you have other companies that are taking the information, the things that were learned and developed by NASA in moon flights and rockets and stuff now with government backing, and it's being transferred to private industry. So Elon Musk, I think the Blue Horizon Virgin guy has one, and then the Boeing Corporation. They're all being funded by the United States, but now they're saying they're wanting to try and turn it more to private industry, which was the same way the internet was formed. The internet started as a military product, a Defense Department product, and then after it was developed and it's been going, it's been turned over to private individuals that can develop it further, can make entrepreneurial gains, make money off of it. All of that is part of how the government helps support what is going on in the market, in the marketplace. So a lot of people say, well, you don't need the government. Well, the government has been real influential in creating some of the industries that we now take for granted, that that research and development came through government dollars, that then is transferred back into private hands, where you start seeing other businesses and other things take off. So sometimes we lose sight of that when we think about, well, the government's always wasting money. And they do, I mean, but even in private business, money is wasted. Money is wasted. You waste money, I waste money. That's just something about money. It's not all used all the time without any waste. But anyway, that's enough aside. Let's go and see Space to Ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Chelsea Bayarte. Election Day in the United States is coming up on November 5th, and Americans are hitting the polls. We know that absentee ballots allow people to vote when they're out of their home state, but what happens when you're 250 miles above the Earth during an election cycle? In 1997, astronaut David Wolf became the first American to vote in space while he was aboard the Mir space station, and astronauts have exercised their right to vote ever since. Today, all 4 American astronauts currently on the space station have indicated that they plan to vote in the 2024 presidential election. The process is quite simple. The astronaut fills out a federal postcard application to request an absentee ballot. Once approved, they are set up to vote in space. The encrypted ballots are sent to the astronaut's secure on-orbit email account. The astronaut casts their vote.
That was last week's show. Sorry about that. We'll see if we can get us a little bit newer one here, because we went over the election last week with my show. Sorry. Let's start this all over. Let's see if we can start it all over. We might can. Okay, we will. And give you the latest Space to Ground. Okay, a little technical difficulty, but here we go.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Shaniqua Vereen. In an exciting display of precision and teamwork, Dragon Freedom undocked from the forward port of the Harmony module, making room for the anticipated Cargo Dragon resupply ship that launched Monday, November 4th.
Freedom SpaceX, all hooks up.
On November 3rd, the Crew 9 Dragon capsule carrying its 4 astronauts successfully undocked from the International Space Station at precisely 6:35 a.m. Eastern. Just under an hour later, they redocked, transitioning from the forward-facing port of Harmony to the space-facing Zenith port. But why was the relocation of the Crew Dragon necessary in the first place? We received that #AskNASA question from @PotteryForLife. So, what is the benefit for the relocation of the Crew Dragon for the purpose of giving the forward port to the Cargo Dragon? Well, the relocation was necessary so that the CRS-31 Dragon cargo spacecraft can provide a reboost in altitude to the space station. That reboost can only happen from the forward-facing port of the Harmony module. Docking to the zenith port, where the Crew 8 Dragon was located, would lower the orbit versus raising it.
Base to ground.
On Monday, November 4th, NASA and SpaceX launched the 31st resupply mission from Florida, delivering scientific investigations, supplies, and equipment to the space station, including research involving studies of solar wind, a radiation-tolerant moss, spacecraft materials, and cold welding in space. Did you know that different mosses grow on every continent on Earth and have the highest radiation tolerance of any plant? Their small size and low maintenance, ability to absorb water from the air, and tolerance of harsh conditions make them suitable for spaceflight. An experiment called Artemis observes the combined effects of microgravity and cosmic radiation. Researchers will look to identify genes that drive adaptations to sustain life in extreme environments. There's been little research on how these two factors together affect plant physiology and performance, and results could help identify biological systems suitable for use in bioregenerative life support systems on future missions. NASA chose the Antarctic moss because the continent receives high levels of radiation from the sun. Plants and other biological systems able to withstand the extreme conditions of space also could provide food and other necessities in harsh environments on Earth. You can follow more exciting developments and updates on the International Space Station by visiting blogs.nasa.gov/space station. And that's Space to Ground for this week. Thanks for watching.
All right, yes. You're watching Space to Ground, and that's coming to you from NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. We show this every week right here on the BFTAA and More Show, and we hope that you enjoy it. Now we're going to get ready to go. Now we're going to get ready to go to What's Up NASA. So this gives you an opportunity now to be able to see what's up in the night sky. For the month of November, you'll be able to see some things, or this video is going to show you what you can look up and see in the night sky. So you can go outside, or if you're on a drive, or you're in a park, especially if you get away from the city lights where you can see more of the stars, then this would be a good place to, or a good way to find some of the things that you need to be looking for, or that you can look for in the night sky. So let's go now to What's Up from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory of NASA.
What's up for November? When to look for Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars this month? A NASA spacecraft swings by Venus on its way to the Sun. The tricky business of seeing the Moon hide a bright star. And stick around till the end for photos of highlights from last month's skies. Saturn is visible toward the south for most of the night. For observers in the Americas, it has a close meetup with the Moon on the 10th, when the pair will appear less than a degree apart just after dark, making for a great sight through binoculars. Check the sky again around midnight and you'll see the Moon has visibly shifted a couple of degrees west of Saturn, showing evidence of the Moon's orbital motion in just a few hours. Jupiter is rising in the east early in the night together with the bright stars of the constellations Taurus and Orion, and working its way across the sky by dawn. By the end of November, it's rising just as the sky is getting dark. Mars follows behind Jupiter, rising about 3 hours after the giant planet. As in October, early risers will find the red planet high overhead in the morning sky before dawn. In the evening sky, Venus is low in the southwest following sunset throughout the month of November. It's blazing bright and unmistakable if you find a relatively unobstructed view. It appears much higher in the sky for those in the southern hemisphere who will also be able to easily observe Mercury after sunset this month. And on the 4th, a slim crescent moon will appear just below Venus for a beautiful pairing as the glow of sunset fades. Now, staying with Venus, one of NASA's intrepid solar system explorers is headed for a close encounter with this Earth-sized hothouse of a planet on November 6th. Parker Solar Probe studies our planet's nearest star, the Sun. Its mission is to trace the flow of energy that heats the Sun's outer atmosphere and accelerates the million-mile-per-hour stream of particles it emits. It makes its measurements from super close to the Sun, within the region where all the action happens. To do this, the spacecraft was designed to fly within just 4 million miles of the Sun's surface, which is 10 times closer than the orbit of the closest planet, Mercury. No other spacecraft has ever gotten this close to the Sun before. In the 6 years since its launch, the spacecraft has made a bunch of approaches to the Sun, using flybys of the planet Venus to shape its orbit. The November 6th flyby is the final such maneuver, intended to send the spacecraft toward its 3 closest ever solar approaches, starting on December 24th. During this last Venus flyby, the mission will capture images of the planet. Previous views returned by Parker showed that the spacecraft could actually see features on the Venusian surface through its dense cloud cover. So look out for Venus in the evening sky as the brilliant planet helps a craft from Earth to touch the face of the Sun. In the couple of hours before sunrise on November 27th, skywatchers in the eastern half of the US and Canada will have the chance to witness an occultation, an event where the moon passes in front of and temporarily hides a bright star, in this case, Spica. Observers in other parts of the world will see the moon pass extremely close to Spica, but won't see it cover up the star. This occultation is one of a series that began in June and will continue monthly through late next year. These happen as the moon's orbit slowly shifts northward and southward across the sky, and every so often its path crosses in front of Spica monthly for a time. But each occultation is only visible from a small portion of Earth. For example, while this November event favors North American viewers, South American observers will get their chance next April. For US skywatchers, this November occultation is the last good opportunity in this series to see the moon occult Spica until 2032, when a new series of monthly occultations will begin for locations across the globe. Now, if you miss this event, don't worry. The moon also passes in front of 3 other bright stars from time to time. This means that no matter where you're located, you'll have the opportunity before too long to witness the impressive sight of a bright star briefly disappearing behind the moon. Here are views of what some of the highlights we told you about in last month's video actually looked like. And here are the phases of the moon for November. Stay up to date on all of NASA's missions exploring the solar system and beyond at science.nasa.gov. I'm Preston Dykes from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and that's what's up for this month.
All right. Very interesting to see some of the things going on in the night sky. You know, it was something in that first video that it showed is that the spacecraft or the modules that go up to the International Space Station, that they can actually lift up or raise the altitude of the space station or lower it depending upon where they're connected to the space station. So they can actually push it back up into a higher orbit or bring it down from a high orbit. I didn't know that. That's pretty interesting because as orbits decay, if there wasn't a way to move it around up there, it would be crashing into the atmosphere and burning up probably a long time ago. But by being able to raise it back up, then the effects of the gravity, because it's not totally zero gravity, because the orbit of it could decay to where it would end up coming back to Earth. So it's not like it's floating away or staying in the same place. They have to push it back up or down. That's interesting because, you know, that thing's probably pretty big and it looked like just pushing it, but there's no resistance or wind to make it want to bend on the ends or something like that. But just kind of interesting fact that just came out that I didn't know about, that where they docked that crew vessel, or not the crew vessel, the supply vessel, and I guess it has enough power or left on or extra fuel that it can actually push the space station up into a higher orbit. Man, I tell you, this technology, that's why STEM is very important. That's why science is very important, to know how to do those things and to figure that type of operation out. I know, and I probably said it 1,000 times, but I really love the movie Hidden Figures, because that was a great showing of what we need to do, with space or with people in space, and it was just really interesting, an interesting movie that we could get our arms around. Now, there was another bit that I wanted to show you, but I don't have it up here. I'm going to see if I can pull it up, but I got a feeling I won't be able to. But how many, and I don't know if you did, but as I said, Hidden Figures was one of those science space movies that I thought was very interesting, very well done, good acting involved in it. It was all around pretty good. And I thought, hey, this is a past, but it can inspire our young people to do even more. And that's something that movies can do is get you interested in learning or doing something that you hadn't done. So writers and the people that come up with some of these stories can really affect how we feel. There's a lot of people that see a movie or a picture. I know on Star Trek, Nicole Nichols that was on there was a black actress playing in Star Trek back in the 60s when you didn't see many blacks on television, but she inspired like Whoopi Goldberg to want to study to be more. She didn't go into space, but it was that seeing somebody that looks like you doing things. And a lot of people have gotten into science and technology and space and all of that from the movies that inspired them. They saw movies like Star Wars and Star Trek and all of that young kids will see that and say, man, I can do something like that. You can click. And that's always a good thing. There was a movie in I think that was the 80s. Might have been the 80s or the 90s, maybe right in there. And the movie was called Contact. And the good thing about that movie is it brought out a lot of things about what would happen when we do make, say, our first contact with aliens. And it was strange because the way that it was done, it basically was the aliens contacting us, not we contacting the aliens. And the aliens kind of let them know that we're just kind of watching, curious. This is the way things happen. We've been through this and all that. And when one of the stars, Dr. Ellie Arroway, or the star in the movie, was testifying before a committee, it says, if you could ask aliens one question, what would it be? So think about that. If you could ask aliens, if they contacted you, one question, what would that be? And the answer that she gave, it was, and I suppose the question I would ask is, how did you do it? How did you evolve? How did you survive this technological adolescence without destroying yourselves? See, and that's the thing. It's like we're going through a technology and we think it's really advanced, but we're just starting. We're just starting to see about going into space. We're just starting to think about going to Mars. We haven't even left this solar system. There's so much out there that it's going to be interesting if we can, make it through all of this. But there's change. People are worried about AI. They're worried about going into space. They're worried about the atmosphere and a lot of things. And there's a lot of technology happening, self-driving cars and drones and people using the internet and social media and things that are causing a lot of disruption in our day-to-day lives. So how do you survive this? Because if the aliens are so advanced, they had to survive to get to that advanced stage, to be that. So are we going to be able to survive our technological adolescence right now? We're just children playing with nuclear bombs and playing with trying to create fusion generation and trying to travel to planets outside of our own. We haven't been to a planet in uniform. We went to the moon, and some people even think that was a hoax. But if we think about trying to go to Mars, that's the first trip to another planet. That would be historical. But then we'd have to go even farther. You know, is how do we leave the solar system? Because if you watch the Contact movie, she doesn't know how far she went. It was amazing, the travel, the way they had things going on, wormholes and things that we have today. But Carl Sagan, when he wrote that book, Contact, was kind of talking about the same thing. You know, what do we do if we're contacted? How do we make contact? How do we explain where we're going? How do we get to that higher stage? So that's what we're about here. Black Family Technology Awareness Association wants to do our little part to advance mankind's knowledge, to advance our families, our youth, our communities in technology. So be ready. We're going to try and put together some STEM technology nights for the family that will be going on this winter, especially during Black History Month. This will be our 21st year in operation, and we're looking at doing some STEM technology nights, probably at the libraries or the community centers in the neighborhood, where kids and adults can come and see and learn, have some workshops where they'll hear about technology, and then some hands-on applications of technology that we can do. So stay tuned for that. The Black Family Technology Awareness Association wants to close the digital divide by making you aware, giving you access, and actually encouraging development in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So thanks for listening. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you will continue. We're having a Lego tournament this Saturday. Our kids, the Lego team, they call themselves the Coding Stars. The Coding Stars, which are the Black Family Technology Awareness Association's Lego robotics team, will be at North Kansas City High School this Saturday competing in the Lego League competition. So if you can, come over there. I think it's open to the public after lunch, which is like 12 o'clock. Before then, it's just for the youth because they're going to be getting judged and displaying their projects and stuff. So come out, be sure and check them out, or just support us, pray for us and our young people, because they've been working. We've got a team of 6 young people that'll be going, and we'll be really glad to have them out there. So thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, for listening to KUAW Radio, and for being a part of the community. We thank you so very much. We'll be back again next Monday from 5 to 5:45 for the BFTAA and More show. Bye-bye.